In the Handmaid's Tale, Gilead is a theocratic society, which basically means that church and state are combined. So throughout the chapter and the entire book, you see a lot of use of biblical terms and also the use of the Bible to justify some of the things that the regime does, like the salvagings, which is like killing of people who committed something that wouldn't be a crime in our time right now, but is considered a crime in this dystopian future. There's also a lot of biblical terms, loaves and fishes, which is a store of flesh, and soul scrolls. So soul scrolls is a place to order prayers from. And ordering prayers from here was a sign of piety and faithfulness to the regime, as quoted from the book. When Ofred and Glenn, they were walking, and Ofglen said, "Do you think God listens?" she says, to these machines. Ofglen made this statement. This was a try at God himself and a challenge at his divine abilities. And Ofred, she said that in the past, this would have been manipulation. Right now, it's treason. So in this theocratic society, questioning something like that is considered a major offense. Since the new laws, structures, and even names are so integrated with the teachings of the Bible, everyone is expected to always follow the new ways of life without further questions. What was written in the Bible was the only acceptable way to do things. The irony here is the switch between the past, which is our time right now, and the present of this book, because even though time is technically moving forward, society is taking giant leaps back, meaning that America right now is a fairly diverse country with a lot of ethnicities and religions. The majorities of states and cities right now have places of worship for a lot of different religions, and freedom of religion is one of our amendments. Gilead, however, has completely stripped civilians of that right by forcing Christianity and its teachings on all of the people. Going back to the theme of conformity, there's also this organization called the Eyes. And they're basically the secret police, and they're called the Eyes because they're supposed to represent the eyes of the god. They're a group of men who work for the regime. They capture men who were, for example, abortion doctors, and kills them to hang onto the wall. The wall is basically a giant place in the center of Gilead where men are killed and bags are placed over their heads, and they're hung up as a way to portray what the punishment that you could face if you go against the regime. So after doing some research, I found that the wall in Gilead right now was previously Harvard University. So I thought this was a symbol of the inverted world that Gilead created, since Harvard was an educational place previously, but now is a place of deceit, murder, and treachery, which kind of goes to show that the values of education has really turned into something that is deceiving and could be considered a crime. Gilead demands conformity, and rebellion could result in being salvaged or exiled, like the unwomen who are like feminists. And the book says, "The wall is even more foreboding when it's empty, like a storm approaching." The wall symbolizes defiance, so it's a constant reminder of the possibility of that punishment. And also, there's a simile in that empty wall is like a storm approaching, which is basically kind of like this fear tactic that the regime is using on its civilians, because they're all like terrified of being salvaged and ending up on the wall. So they're forced to stay under the control of the regime and follow the rules and stay loyal. As you begin the chapter, you see a quote from Ofred about her and Ofglen walking through the path they always follow to run their errand daily. It's a rat in a maze is free to go anywhere as long as it stays inside the maze. I thought this was a perfect metaphor because it shows how the women inside Gilead are trapped in the regime and how they don't fully understand the capacity of it because they're being brainwashed into thinking that they have freedom because they're given a sense of purpose. Also, another giant theme in the book is also rebellion. The quote is, and this is a conversation between Ofglen and Ofred. So Ofglen says, "I thought you were a true believer." And Ofred replies, "I thought you were." And Ofglen says, "You were always so stinking pious." So they both thought that each other were submissive to the new life, but truly they weren't. "You can join us," she says. "Us?" I say. "There isn't us. There's a we. I knew it." So she's talking about the rebellion against the regime. The thought of rebelling has always been an idea inside of Ofred's mind, but she's consistently been too scared to actually do anything. Another quote from the chapter is that, "I want to laugh, shout, hug her." The thought of disruption in Ofred's monotonous flow of life excites her. She wanted to speak up and protest, but she was held back. However, now she has a way to rebel against the new society. This is how she regains a spark of hope. She can now try and have faith in the future. So basically, this idea of rebelling also doubles as a way for Ofred to be hopeful of what's to come. A theme you see throughout the book is a loss of individuality. So everyone in Gilead is classified into a rigid hierarchy by the use of clothing, names, titles, and economic status. A quote from the chapter is that women in green, blue, red stripes, men too, some in uniform, and some only in civilian suits. And there's another quote, which is whirlwinds with their chauffeurs and cushioned occupants, lesser cars driven by lesser men. It's obvious that the people of a lower economic standing are looked down on. The richer men are seen as better men, while the poorer people are considered to be lesser men. Also, the use of clothing. So the women are all divided into either commander's wives, Martha's handmaids, or Kona wives, and are required to wear the color of the roles they play in society. Specifically looking at the handmaids having to wear the color red, We can note that red can be used to symbolize fertility since it's the color of a menstrual cycle, but it's also used to represent adultery or sexual sin. As we see in Scarlet Letter, Hester is forced to wear a red A as a way to label her as a sinner and to shame her. In A Handmaid's Tale, one can say that the handmaids are committers of adultery because they are sleeping with the commanders who are married. Their roles are justified in the Bible, but this new regime is, in a way, shaming the handmaids. Their red clothes symbolize the pride of their fertility as well as the shame that their roles come with. Going back to the theme of conformity, we have the end of the chapter, which ends with a conflict with the eyes and a man walking down the street. So the section says, "But I can't help seeing right in front of me, right in front of us, the van pulls up. Two eyes in gray suits leap from the opening double doors as at the back. They grab a man who is walking along. A man with a briefcase, an ordinary-looking man, slam him back against the black side of the van. He's there a moment, splayed out against the metal, as if stuck to it. Then one of the eyes moves in on him, does something sharp and brutal that doubles him over into a limp cloth bundle. They pick him up and heave him into the back of the van like a sack of mail. Then they're also inside, and the doors are closed, and the van moves over." And the last sentence, "What I feel is relief, it wasn't me." So the eyes are also, the secret police, they are being used as like a fear symbol to make sure that the civilians are kept in check and kept loyal, since they are under so much pressure to stay loyal, because it could end up in them being tortured or salvaged or hung up onto the wall. They are in constant fear of being captured and tortured. So that's also a way that the regime keeps the civilians conformed, by using fear tactics. So that's all the aspects I'm going to talk about of the chapter 27 of The Handmaid's Tale.